I spoke for a minute about our firm, and we pride ourselves upon providing service to our client, but most of all, what's unique, obviously it's about providing correct guidance, but what's unique is that we really are collaborate on everything we do. That's Hilla and I, and now we have an associate as well, and that's really our motto, is that we collaborate in order to really give clients their best possible results. As we know, Toiv Hashnayim and Echad, it's always, two heads are better than one. And with that, our presentation actually is going to follow suit. We're going to do something a little bit different here. The screen here is actually only here for our presentation, but Hilla and I are actually going to do a collaborative presentation, which hopefully will be interesting. Hopefully will keep everyone into things and won't be too distracted. Just to give everyone an idea of what's going to be happening, Hillel will be the attorney, I will be the client, he'll be Mr. Attorney, I'll be Mr. Client, and we're going to run through a little bit of sort of a client, lawyer, attorney interview, where we'll have facts surrounding what we feel is very relevant, especially here in Lakewood, where many individuals either came from New York or have interests in New York, and we feel that we focus obviously our practice on New York and New Jersey, and there are issues that do come up specifically where someone has assets or items in New York and New Jersey. So with that, we will get started.
So, Mr. Client, I understand you wanted to see me about doing some estate planning?
Yes, Mr. Attorney. I've been told that it's really important, but I don't really understand why it's so necessary. I don't really have that much in terms of assets. I have one home, I have an investment property, I have a small business. But really, my children said it's about time that you see a lawyer and receive proper advice. But I really don't think it's all that important.
What do you think an estate looks like?
That's what I always imagined an estate to look like, a palatial estate. Not my small residence and my small family. That's really what I always understood an estate to be.
Okay, that's a common misconception that people have, and maybe at the end of this meeting you'll have a different perspective. So let's get some more information about you. Tell me about yourself a little bit.
Okay. Recently, just a few months ago, I've always lived in New York, in Brooklyn, New York. I was married. Unfortunately, my wife passed away about 5 years ago. I'm semi-retired right now, thank God. Taking a little time off. My partner and I were both sort of sharing the burden. I have 4 children. 2 boys, two girls, all 4 are married. And right now, actually, I'm contemplating actually moving from New York to New Jersey and getting remarried and moving to New Jersey.
That's really nice. Sounds like you have a great relationship with your family. So, tell me a little bit about your investments and other assets.
Yeah, as I mentioned, we purchased our house in Brooklyn, where I've lived my whole life. We purchased that in 1972. Right now, the value is $1.1 million, give or take a few dollars. And we have no mortgage on the house, and the house has really appreciated in value since we bought the house way back when.
I also have a business, as I mentioned, with a partner. It's a small business, but it's been successful over the years. It's probably worth about $3 million total. We sold it today.
I also have some retirement savings, an IRA held in a couple of different accounts with the value of approximately right now around $550,000.
I also have 2 life insurance policies with a nice death benefit, and one has also a cash value of about $250,000.
Okay, it's $1.5 million. IRA, $550,000. Business interest.
I left out one thing, actually. I have also an investment property here in Lakewood. That's actually the property that I'm thinking about moving to. Though after being in the courtyard tonight, maybe I'll just move in here.
Okay, just keep it as an investment property. That's fine. Okay, and you have again summary. You have a business interest of about $1.5 million, and death benefits of your life insurance policies, back to the, of about 3.5 million in total, approximately estate of about 7 million. So this is a larger than average estate, but most of the discussion will focus on today, thank you, will be relevant to much smaller estates as well.
That's great, because I know I do have a lot of friends who are not as well off, and they've also said they have to do some planning, so
You're their advisor.
I'll relay that to them, yes.
Okay, so maybe tell me about what your concerns are.
I mean, one of my main concerns really is aging and aging with dignity, and ultimately there's a lot of issues that come up with terms of expenses, medical expenses, and I'm really concerned about depleting my hard-earned assets and my hard-earned money that I've earned over my life. I wanted to leave that to my family, and I really don't want that to be depleted by long-term care needs if that should be necessary.
Okay, that's a very valid concern. And let me bring to your attention some other points which you should think about. About managing your house, how your assets will be managed.
I never thought this was important, so I've done nothing.
So you have no power of attorney, you have no healthcare proxy, so no way that your assets will be managed in case you're incapacitated or you don't have.
I have nothing in place. I've done no planning at all.
Okay, what about, do you have a plan on how you're going to pay for your long-term care costs?
Didn't deal with that.
Okay. Now let me explain to you. Do you understand that currently approximately 60 to 70% of individuals reaching age 65 will need some form of long-term care in their lifetime?
Yeah, I've heard that, but I'm right now I have Medicare, and I figured that would be helpful to me and really cover whatever I need.
Yeah, that's true. It does cover something, but it's very limited. For instance, Medicare coverage of nursing home is very limited. It's only after a qualified hospital stay will cover you for 20 days, and then for another total of 100 days, it will cover you partially. But you need to think about what the nursing home costs are. For instance, New York, New Jersey nursing home cost is about $100,000 to $120,000 a year. In New York, it's about $135,000 a year.
Wow, that's a lot of money to deal with.
Home care costs are about $20 an hour for a nurse or an aide that you want to bring into your home to help you out. Let's explore some other options that you have that might help pay for your long-term care. There's long-term care insurance. The issues with that is that there's a limited number of companies that are still in business. You have to be medically eligible, you have to be healthy enough, and it can be very expensive. We'll have someone come in shortly and discuss that in greater depth. Another way to pay for long-term care is Medicaid, another government program. But your assets and your income have to be under a certain limit. In order to do that, you have to transfer assets out of your own name.
Well, that's interesting, because I actually have many friends who just told me that at home, just to my children, as soon as possible, give it to them directly.
Well, from a Medicaid perspective, that might work. But from an income tax perspective, that would be a disastrous decision, actually, on your part.
You bought this property for $54,000, right? This is called your basis in the property.
Now, let's say you transfer your home to your children, and shortly after your death, they would sell the property for, let's say it's worth what it's worth now, $1.1 million. So their gain for tax purposes would be over $1 million. They would be taxed about 30% on that gain. So about $300,000 check would have to be written to the government for tax purposes, and which could have been completely avoided if done properly. If instead of transferred directly to your children, we transferred to a trust for them, if you decide to do Medicaid planning. Even after you, one of the issues of Medicaid planning is making yourself quote unquote poor, getting assets out of your own name, giving up the control over them and giving up the benefits of your assets. And even after you do that, there is the other issue of if you should need long-term care, if you should need nursing home care within 5 years of that transfer, Medicaid will impose a penalty on you based on the amount that you transfer. And we'll have someone come later and discuss in greater detail the Medicaid eligibility requirements and application details.
So talking about all these, and so ethically this concerns me. Is it really ethically appropriate for me to start transferring my assets now while I'm living and then become eligible for government programs, even though in reality I had all these assets just a few days earlier?
Listen, there is considerable debate about the ethics of that, and it's something that you would have to become comfortable doing on your own before you do such a thing. But
I will just quote you a statement made by New York's highest court, the Court of Appeals, in a 2000 case, which is very relevant to this issue.
They said, no agency of the government has any right to complain about the fact that middle-class people, confronted with desperate circumstances, choose voluntarily to inflict poverty upon themselves, when it is the government itself which has established the rule that poverty is a prerequisite to the receipt of assistance in the defraying of the costs of ruinously expensive but absolutely necessary, essential medical treatment. So that was just a court view on the ethics of that.
It's interesting. I want to mention I have some other concerns other than obviously long-term care. Like I said, thank God, Baruch Hashem, we have a family, that one side passed away, that I really want everything to be distributed to them in a fair way, and that the harmonious relationships that our family share right now should continue. And I know, obviously, in addition to secular law, there's also a lot of halachic implications that can come up, and can ultimately, there's been a lot of stories I've heard where a once peaceful family really things turn in a completely different direction after the second spouse passes away and leaves significant assets.
I agree. In my opinion, this is probably the single most important reason to do estate planning. And it applies to all ranges of estates, from someone who will leave a few $100,000 to his children to one who will leave hundreds of millions. There needs to be clear instructions from the parent, backed up by functioning documents, to ensure and preserve family harmony.
As well as, for the firm client like yourself, have documents that can be held up in Bezin as well, where you have the added risk, like for firm clients of dispute in Bezin. And we'll have someone coming by shortly to discuss the halachic ramifications of estate planning. Okay, so let me just bring to your attention another couple of points that you should be thinking about. You're contemplating remarrying. Have you taken the steps that you need to take prior to remarrying to make sure that your assets, that your children are protected, that your children will get the bulk of your estate and not your second wife's family? Another thing, you have a 50% interest in a business that has considerable value, $1.5 million. How will your children access this value?
That's fairly simple. My partner and I, we've gotten along for all the years. We've never had any agreement, but children will either be bought out by my partner, or they'll come in and it will be a seamless process. They'll join the business and everything will just continue the way it was.
Really? Do you have anything in writing stating that your partner is obligated to buy out your interest?
And even if your partner is a great guy, he wants to do what's right, does the business have the liquidity to make such a payment? Even in installments? You think they'll be able to do such a thing? And you're talking about your children joining the business. Do you think your partner is fine with that, to have inexperienced people just showing up and joining the business?
They used to come in when they were kids. They used to come in and, so I figured they know something.
Another thing that you should think about, if you don't do any planning, the state does it for you. The state decides where your assets should go. Those are called the intestacy statutes of the state. In New York, for example, the intestacy laws are that half of your estate goes to the surviving spouse, half goes to children. For many people, that's not what they intend. At least in a one marriage situation, a typical situation. In Jersey, it is more typical. It's more what most people want. That all goes to the surviving spouse in a one marriage situation. Okay. Do you have any other concerns? Like maybe something relating to taxes?
Yeah, my last concern, obviously, the taxes are passing to my family and not to the government is something I'm concerned about. And I've been told there are strategies that one can implement to make that happen.
Did you know that Pastor Shlomo Yeshua combined federal and state tax of about $1.5 million, and a big portion of which could have been easily avoided. And even people with smaller estates that are not subject to federal estate tax because of the higher exemption from federal estate tax, but they could still be subject to the state estate tax. In New Jersey, especially New Jersey, which has a state estate tax exemption of only $675,000.
But just one home can really go over that amount.
That's right. That's right. And another thing you should think about, you have real estate in 2 states. You know that your children, if you don't do proper planning, your children will have to go through probate in 2 states, New York and New Jersey, which could be a tremendous hassle, cost and time. Okay, I hope I enlightened you a little today about some of the aspects of estate planning.
You definitely did, and thank you very much. I appreciate it.